Hey guys, I know this video is going up pretty late because I'm recording it on Thursday. I've actually been really busy. It's been finals half a month pretty much. Um, just been drowning in essays and tests and stuff. I just finished one essay, so thought I'd take a break, read this week's comics, which I did, and then review them. Kind of the only time I've had to myself all week that I wasn't writing something or going to school or work or something. Anyway, I've just been really kind of burnt out recently. So probably gonna be a more low energy video. And it's probably gonna be a long one too because I have so many comics. So I should probably just get started. First is Moon Knight, issue number 10. Probably, and I hate saying this, probably the weakest issue of this run so far. It could be because it doesn't actually have Moon Knight in it for the most part, but I think the main reason is because with these books, you usually get either not a lot of dialogue and then a bunch of kind of movement and action to make up for it. Or you get like a nice balance of dialogue and action, and everything's very kind of, I don't want to say cinematic, but everything moves very fluidly. Everything's in a constant motion with a very, very even tempo. And this book just doesn't have that. The general story they're trying to tell, I mean, I like it, but it only kind of feels like half of the story, and the way it's presented doesn't have the usual pace that Moon Knight has had. But picks up from where the last issue ended, where Mark Spector lost Moon Knight to the therapist that he went to, Dr. Eliza Warsame, and I know that it's written in the front page of the book that I've been reading. And so this is her plan to assassinate the person, the diplomat who murdered her family, and like years and years ago at the UN, which involves hypnotizing a UN security guard in order to get her to assassinate the leader. And it follows. It's basically a day in her life as she's being stalked by the new Moon Knight. But just the pacing, the flow feels off. Because you get like this quiet beginning, pretty much. Quiet opening pages, kind of establishing that we're following a new character. Also, all of the Marvel books have this ad in it, and it's like such a throwback. It's like a weird sort of, I don't know, like you don't really expect to see Charles Atlas ads anymore in comic books. It feels so dated, I guess, but no, there it is. So we're following this guard as she starts her day. She's she's talked to by Moon Knight, who tells her, who doesn't tell her anything really. She just says, go through your day as normally, you'll find out what's gonna happen. So she does. Moon Knight comes back, and it just like when Moon Knight comes back, it's kind of this dreamscape thing. She goes back to work the next day, or the next night. It's 36 hours, so. And yeah, it doesn't really build up tension well enough, and that's clearly what they're going for, is building up the tension of, will she actually go through with it? And then at the end, they have Mark Spector comes back at the very end. But yeah, I just don't think this comic really did its job of setting up tension and then the payoff correctly, and the uneven just pacing of the whole thing also doesn't make it as rewarding as it could have been. It's a good idea for a story, and maybe if they made this just one part of the story, like if we saw that, they set up maybe in the previous issue that she was hypnotized, and then in this issue we see her trying to go throughout the plan, and then something else happened. But just the way this is done, it feels a little incomplete and uneven. Next up is Ultimate Spider-Man number 8, 008. I like this story a whole lot more, even though this was more of a bait and switch. So it's the start of a new arc for Ultimate Spider-Man. We last arc ended with Miles' dad coming back and saying, I think it's Miles' dad. Yeah, Miles' dad. His name is Jefferson Davis, which I find kind of funny because Jefferson Davis was, I think, the first president of the Confederacy in the United States during the Civil War. I don't know. Weird history fact for you. Jefferson Davis, history of the president of the Confederacy during the Civil War. Anywho, and see, here's the Charles Atlas ad again. But anywho, it's basically the father's story, and it plays out kind of like a very subtle blaxploitation. So basically, his father was, when he was younger, was part of like just this kind of street gang, nothing serious. He got into a huge fight and beat up a whole bunch of people, which impressed like the gang leader guy. Eventually gets arrested, gets put in a hospital, where he's approached by a young Nick Fury, who says, "You're working for me now." He doesn't know what, about S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't exist yet. At least I don't think so. But he's like, "You're working for me now. You'll know your mission when it happens. I'm not going to tell you anything." And they have this like just really good rapport. Not like good as in like they're friendly and everything. I mean good within the quality in the writing is like really good. And they build up like this great kind of 80s atmosphere, just with the illustrations, with the fashions, with the in the beginning we have Club 2099, which of course is a reference to the 2099 universe. And the initial like chase and fight scene is really good, really well done. I like the art in this book. It's more stylized than we usually get from Ultimate Spider-Man. Really kind of helps establish that it's more of a period kind of side story or flashback. And I haven't really been introduced to these characters before. I started reading Ultimate Spider-Man at the most recent #1, so I don't know how much like we were supposed to know about the father, but he's characterized really well and really quickly. So you definitely get that, that like good quick characterization that makes you care about this character and where he's going in the span of one issue, and it's leading up to Wilson Fisk at the end, and then some. At the end, this is only like part 1 of the flashback. Apparently, there's more, but this definitely got me hooked. This is just a great kind of single, like I said, kind of blaxploitation, but not quite, kind of gang story. If you're into that sort of thing, I really liked it. It's not, it's not normally what I like. Like I said, it's not like I go and seek out that sort of thing, but I think this is a really good example of it. Yeah, just nothing wrong with this book at all. In fact, quite the opposite. Everything was very well done, and I quite enjoyed it. And it's a, it's a non-superhero story, but that's pretty cool too. But yeah, if you're okay not reading about Spider-Man in a Spider-Man book, that's a great substitute. Next up is Captain Marvel #10, which is also Carol Danvers' 100th issue. 100, yeah, it says right on here, 100th solo issue. And this is a one-shot. Again, it's a one-shot. Oh, no, it's not a one-shot. It's part 102. My bad. A Christmas Carol, part 102. I don't know why I thought it was a one-shot. Kind of feels one-shotty. A little bit. I mean, it's self-contained. The story they tell here is self-contained, leads into something. But like the way they tell it has complete beginning, middle, end. Picks up at Carol reading her mail, and then again there's the ad, Carol's Atlas ad, and it tells kind of the story of what's happening back on Earth while Carol is away. So we get 3 letters that all tell the same story. we get the first letter from Kit, and then we get a letter from I'm gonna find where the next one starts. From Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, and then the last letter, the last part of the story, is from Rhodey, Carl's boyfriend. And they all tell the story of the time, or a time, recently, while Carl was off planet, where, what's her name? Where Grace Valentine, who, not a villain I'm familiar with, but apparently a villain, Grace Valentine broke out of jail and commanded a rat army to attack the Statue of Liberty, which is Carol's home base. And we get each character's perspective of how that happened through their letter, each letter having a different font, and you really get just from different writing style, all the personalities of these characters, slightly different art style for each chapter too, or it could just be the Jessica Drew one that's extra stylized. And yeah, you get a really good sense of who these characters are and their relationship to Carol and how that friendship exists and grows. How they relate themselves to Carol, pretty much. And then telling this whole complete story through the 3 different vantage points, these different characters. And it's a good story. It's a fun little, I guess, side story. Again, we're not really following anything Carol did. But we get to see her reminisce. We get to see her friends reminisce about times with her. And we get to see how they handle themselves without Carol and how they miss her and how life continues anyway. So I really enjoyed it. And I think you might too if you like this sort of thing with rats and multiple perspectives on a single story, all leading into each other. Pretty good stuff. Next up, we have Future's End, number 33. And I actually want to review this in tandem with Batman Eternal number 37. Because Batman Eternal was finally caught up with the other books around 37. Anywho, Batman Eternal and Future's End, because it seems like they've swapped just everything this week. I mean, they're both doing a thing where they're each telling fragments of multiple stories at the same time, which I normally find bothersome in this book and okay in this one, but I find it okay in this one and bothersome in this one this week. So in Future's End, I'm going to Batman down for a while. So in Future's End, they tell the multiple stories, but they stay at one story until something happens in that story, and they feel, and it's at a good point to leave off. So we pick up with the big monster fight that was teased at the end of the last one, and we end with Ray Palmer, the Atom, going into Father Time's brain and meeting the actual Father Time, and then that story ends in this issue. We then check up on Sergeant Rock and her and 50 Sue. They're one already very tightly connected story. So we see what Sergeant Rock is up to and King Faraday in trying to stop 50 Sue, and then we see what 50 Sue has been up to since she escaped the island. And then that story ends with her getting back in contact with Cole. Then we have the next story where we check up on Terry McGinnis and Plastique as they're wondering where is Brother Eye, because Terry can't find Brother Eye anywhere. But so they're having a conversation with so he's having a conversation with Plastique about maybe he already changed the future and created a split timeline where he doesn't know he changed the future. And then we see Brother Eye invade the world as they're telling the story about possible paradoxes and future stuff. And so they end with Brother Eye getting into the first Plastique cyborg, and then we end that there. We then go to our final story of the issue, which is Firestorm, again trying to figure out their powers again. So they decide to go back to the lab where they were created, where they run into the new Dr. Flaris, and that's the end of the issue. So everything's really self-contained, everything's short, punchy, and it feels like we're getting a complete part of each story, which is like very good. This is how they should structure these books if they're fine to structure them. However, they normally structure them like this week's Batman Eternal is structured, which is very messy and slapdash. So we have less stories that we're following with this one, but they're all thrown together kind of willy-nilly throughout the book. So we start on Catwoman, who's become the new crime boss and is fighting assassins because she's now a crime boss. We skip over to Batwing, who's dealing with a haunting ever since returning from Arkham. We then go to Batman, who's searching for the escaped Arkham inmates, where he runs into Killer Croc. We then go to the inmates, where they're discussing what they're going to do now that they're free. And then we go to Harvey Bullock, who's meeting Jason Bard for the first time since this whole kind of incident happened. That only gets a few pages. Then we go back to the Arkham inmates. We go back to Batman, who's meeting Catwoman to talk about the escaped inmates. And then we end on Batwing again. So everything is messy, and we don't feel like we're getting that far in each section. Even put together, the sections, except for maybe Batwing's, which only serves to kind of introduce a new plot thread, it doesn't feel like any of the characters are making any progress. Selina's story, we don't see her rise to power in this book. We just see her already at power, and then nothing happens. She's just at power and is finding new ways to create connections and to grow her influence. With Batman, no progress is made. He just has a couple conversations, one with Catwoman, one with Killer Croc, but doesn't really find anything out. The Arkham inmates just squabble, and it's not like necessarily entertaining squabble. It's not like Secret Six or Suicide Squad squabbling. It's just they're squabbling and there's infighting, and they don't really decide what's going to happen with them. So just a whole kind of bunch of going nowhere. For some reason, this page is considerably lower res than the other pages in the book. It's just this one, and I don't know if it's just my issue, but this page, it gets all pixely, and I don't know how clear it comes across on the camera, but it comes across in person really, really well, or not so well, as the case might be. So yeah, this was just kind of a mess of an issue of Batman Eternal, which I wasn't expecting from it. Really disappointed. Next up is Wonder Woman number 37, second part of the new creative team's first arc, which seems to be about how busy Diana is and how she has too many responsibilities and she's not focusing on each one long enough to make any progress. But unlike Batman Eternal or other issues of Future's End or anything, it makes sense that this book feels like there's too much going on. That's the story, is that Wonder Woman is just bogged down with work. It's a very, very, very personal story right now. I can really relate to that at this moment in my life. And so we're switching from Themyscira, where they're being attacked by these birds, which are Ares' pets. And because Ares is dead, they're now trying to find Diana, because she's the new god of war. And they're attacking Themyscira. So that's where they think she might be. We see this weird oracle shaman figure doing a mysterious ritual, which we find out at the very end actually does something really neat, I think, or something that could be neat. It reintroduces a character into the New 52 who we haven't seen as of yet. So I'm interested to see where that goes. We have Diana and Clark talking about all of Diana's responsibilities and how wound up she seems right now. We have the Congress at Themyscira are still urging Diana, either you've decided to dedicate yourself to the world of man, or you're going to be our queen, but you can't have it both ways because you're stretched out too thin, obviously. We have a fight scene where Diana fights the big bird things because she's on the island as they're attacking, which she hasn't been. And then we have the very end where we see what the shaman has been up to. So again, very busy book, but it's part of the story. Like that's kind of form meeting function, or function meeting form in this case, is that it's a story about being busy, so they show how busy it is by doing all this. Okay, look how many things are going on in Diana's life right now. And I enjoyed it. I think it's really good. I think it's definitely like a relatable story when you're talking about, you know, superheroes who have all these amazing abilities. Of course, that just gives them more responsibilities, and that's, you know, that's something that people deal with in everyday life. So when people are like, oh, Superman's completely unrelatable, a lot of these superheroes are, and this is one way to do it. You know, you do it through kind of parable, like, oh my god, I have so much to do, and everyone's depending on me, and people feel that. So it's a very, very good way to engage readers. And it's a good story. I'm enjoying it so far. I like the art a lot. I like Finch's art in this book a lot more than I did in Forever Evil. Yeah, so this is also a lot brighter, and I tend to lean more towards bright colors, so that could be a reason why. And even the darker scenes are bright, like these bright reds and greens and everything. So everything is pretty neat with this book, and I am glad it did not go to shit after Brian Azzarello finished his run. So remaining optimistic there. Next up, Batman Superman number 17, continuing arc that was started last issue with Superman's Joker, the psychotic who just wants to hurt Superman and everybody surrounding him. We pick up with basically where the last issue left off. I've been saying that a lot recently. With these mysterious attacks on people close to Superman. So we start off with 3 simultaneous attacks, one on Lex Luthor, one on a pop star that Superman saved before she was a pop star, and one on a general of Kahndaq, I think, of where, General Kahndaq who is orchestrating a peace treaty, and he was killed. And so we see Superman, who is saving Luthor of the 3 of them. We find out later it's because he was too late to save the other 2. Has a conversation with Luthor about like the value of a human life. So he saves Luthor, and Luthor's like, well, that was probably the best choice, because if you let me die, 15% of the world's economy goes down the drain, and then that causes a lot of chaos throughout the world. And Superman is basically saying, no, by letting these other 2 people die, I'm causing chaos in other places. You know, these people still meant something. And he has to clean up the mess that their death left behind. So after he saves Luthor, we see Superman go to the border, go to Kahndaq, and fight, basically intervene in their military affairs by destroying the exact amount of weapons that the peace treaty would have, if signed, would have ordered to be dismantled. He then attends the funeral of the pop star, who meant a lot to so many people. And then we get back on the case of who could this person be. So Batman and Superman go to Star Labs, meet with Hector Hammond. Batman has the best line in this entire book. I just love it. I love that line. What training do you have? I'm Batman. Just the perfect Batman line. And then Hector Hammond leads Superman to Lobo. Superman and Lobo get in a fight. And I love when they do this. Superman get fucking pissed because he does think that Lobo's behind it all. Lobo reveals that he wish he were behind it, you know, that whoever's doing this is that like great technology that he'd like. Superman throws Lobo into the atmosphere, and then we find out that Batman has a plan in order to lure this guy into the open in what is kind of an un-Batman moment, in my opinion. Especially compared to what training do you have on Batman, it's like the opposite of Batmanness. Because it involves using live bait and putting people in danger that aren't him. So, yeah, I'm enjoying the story so far. I think it is interesting that we have this villain who is as kind of crazy and sadistic as the Joker, but as also infinitely times more dangerous because he's outwitting Superman and Batman. This is something that cannot be fought with, who seemingly cannot be tracked, and like is actually just wants to see Superman in pain. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting story. I am interested in who could this be, if it's an existing villain or if it's somebody else, maybe a new person. Maybe it's all in their heads. I don't know. I haven't read the ending to this yet. So yeah, no. Really liking this book. Art's really good. I think I'm really liking the art. Yeah, I mean it's nothing spectacular, the art, but just bright colors, nice action scenes, good models. I guess everything's kind of on point. And yeah. That's it. That's the end of that book. Moving on to Justice League number 37, part 3 of the Amazovirus, where sorry, I read a lot of books today, and they're all kind of not blurring together, but you know. So last issue, Superman and Batman came across Patient Zero. This issue, they fight him. That's the majority of the issue. So they're fighting Patient Zero of the Amazovirus, who essentially is Amazo, but instead of an android, he's not bionic. He's biologic? I don't know. He's organic. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. He's organic. He's an organic Amazo. And so yeah, that's that. We also have Luthor talking to his sister, dealing with his responsibility in this outbreak of the Amazovirus. Wonder Woman intervenes in the fight between Batman and Superman and the Amazo. Patient Zero. Patient Amazero? No, that doesn't work. And at the very end of this, at the end of the book, Luthor is seemingly assassinated, just as he's working to find a cure. He's assassinated, supposedly, probably not because comic books, but that's what they're saying happened. And then Batman is breached. He is contaminated, exposed. So I'm enjoying this arc so far. The action is good. You have the kind of the 28 days later thing going on where you have the disease, but you also have kind of the action. It's not like everyone's sick. It's everyone's sick and also dangerous. People are dying, but before they die, they explode. And yeah, I mean, art's a little dark for my taste, and it looks good. I think the illustrations are fine. I'm not a big fan of the palette they're using in this book right now. As I said, I do have more of a bias for saturated, bright colors. And yeah, that's about that for this book. Sorry, like I said, low energy. Moving on to Batman and Robin, number 37. We get Batman versus Darkside at Apocalypse. The end, well, not the end of this arc, but I think it's the penultimate issue. I think next month or at the end of this month, maybe we get Robin Rises Alpha, which is the actual end to the Robin Rises arc. But we get the meat of this issue is Batman versus Darkseid, because when you have, or Darkseid, because when you have Batman versus Darkseid, or Batman and Darkseid in a book, of course you're going to have Batman versus Darkseid, and you're going to want that to be the majority of your book. And it is, I think I've said the last 2 videos, I think this arc went on a bit long. It's a bit stretched out. But this fight, I'm not going to say it makes it all worth it, but this is a damn good penultimate issue. This is a really good fight to leave on. Just, you get that bright red, that bright kind of feeling of apocalypse. You get Batman at his most like desperate. Just everything's happening. And then you see at the very end how everything went like Batman is the master strategist, and you just see how everything went according to plan, which is it's a really nice payoff for a Batman book. That going to Apocalypse and all that, putting himself in this danger, getting, well, not reviving Darkseid, but like having Darkseid being revived, it all falls into part of Batman's plan, which, and spoiler alert, big spoiler alert, I don't normally spoil things, I don't think, on this channel, but doing a spoiler alert here, because this one is kind of a very important spoiler. After the fight with Darkseid and all that, Batman and family escape back to Earth, and Damian is back. He revives Damian, and that's unfortunately not the final page of this book. Not a happy ending quite yet, but yes, a very good issue. I wish it were out a few months ago. I wish there wasn't so many issues in between the beginning of this arc and this one, because it feels like they stretch it out too far. But yeah, as just in a single issue, as the penultimate, I'm pretty sure penultimate issue of this arc, a very good one. Very good fight scene, very good payoff just in terms of Batman going with a plan instead of being completely emotionally driven as he appeared to be throughout this arc. Very good. A lot better than I expected it to be considering the previous issues. Moving on to Batman 37 Endgame Part 3. Part 3 already, wow. Feels like a Part 2. Part 1. Like Part 1 and Part 2 kind of led together. But anyway, Part 3. Which begins with Bruce saying he's 32 years old, which I'm pretty sure doesn't make any sense. Just timeline thing, I'm nitpicking. But if you're gonna include, a number, like a definite specific number in this sort of thing, I would try to make, I think 35 might make sense, that gives you a little more room for everything that has happened in Batman's life to have happened. But, I don't know, maybe I'll ask Scott Snyder one of these days why he made Batman 32, and he can explain how everything fits together without Batman starting his Batmaning at, 20. I don't know. No, I'm also pretty sure in Zero Year they said he started at, 25 or something, or I don't know, something like that. It wasn't 21 when he started, he was older than that, according to Zero Year. Which means there's no way Damian can be 8 years old. And then about all the Robins, did he adopt Nightwing when he was 22? Anyway, yeah, complicated timeline things. And so this issue actually picks off quite a bit of time after the last issue. Last issue ended with Batman trapped by the Joker and injected with the Joker serum, if I remember correctly. That's how that issue ended. And this issue begins with Bruce fighting back the serum, or fighting back whatever it was he was injected with, whatever the Joker did to him. And then waking up in Batcave, time has passed and the Joker virus has spread through Gotham. And it's a lot stronger than all the previous Joker viruses have been. there's seemingly no way to stop it, and Gotham is mostly Joker zombies now. We also pick up from Detective Gordon's point of view, or I don't know what he is. I don't think he's commissioner anymore. This takes place after Eternal. I'm just going to call him Gordon. So it picks up at Gordon's perspective, where he's shacked up in his home waiting for Batman to give him the code so he can make the cure, send the cure to a hospital or something. I'm not exactly sure how that works. So we see Batman try to get to Patient Zero again, kind of like in Amazo in Justice League, but this time it's just Batman getting to the Joker's Patient Zero. Joker, of course, had set a trap for him, which involves recreating the night of his parents' death, but with another family, and he has a Joker-fied Joe Chill to really hammer it home. Meanwhile, the Joker, James Gordon, is doing research into the history of kind of the hospital that Patient Zero is being kept at, and he notices that Joker seems to appear in all of these pictures that are like 100 years old or older, and that he's been in that hospital seemingly forever, which doesn't make sense if he's just human, you know? How could it be that he's over 100 years old? And then we have the Joker show up in James Gordon's home. They get into a fight. The apartment is destroyed in a fire. I don't want to talk about this thread anymore because it goes to pretty dark places. Batman ends up saving the child, who I presume is Patient Zero. And yeah, and then things get really dark. This is, I guess, Batman at its most like horror story-esque. This is like definitely the scariest the Joker has been. There is, you know, with the Joker, there's usually a sense of comedy to it. He is the Joker, he is a clown, and even when he's doing terrible things, he usually has this humor about it. That, you know, it doesn't make the story funny, but it gives the story a bit of levity, no matter how dark the Joker is being. But with this story, that's all gone. The Joker is just pure evil in this, with no humor about it, really, at all. He is just wanting people to hurt, specifically Batman. And it is just, it is like twisted, and I don't know, it's just, it really is, you get this sense of horror in this book, this sense of things are not going to end okay, which is really, really hard to pull off, but Snyder does it really well. And then we have the backup issue, or the backup story, which again follows this doctor as she's trapped with a bunch of inmates from Arkham, who are each telling them how they met the Joker. And this one plays in really well with the main story, because it goes into how in the early days of Gotham's, during the Industrial Revolution, or just post-Industrial Revolution, everyone was sad until the clown came and made everybody laugh, until they laughed to death. The city decides to kill the clown in kind of like a Freddy Krueger-esque sort of thing. But the clown keeps on coming back, and every laugh makes this clown stronger, and it's his mission to burn Gotham to the ground, and just like this thing about the Joker being this timeless, eternal evil that is constantly growing within Gotham. A really good backup story that I think could have been like its own book. This more so than the other stories, definitely. I thought this was like the best one, and it fits so well with the main story. So yeah, no, really good. It's I don't know. I loved every issue Snyder has put out of this book, and he keeps on getting better. I think that's the great thing, is that this book just gets better with every issue. So next up. Oh man, we still have 3 books to go. 3. Can you believe that, guys? 3 books. We have Multiversity, I don't even know what number we're on, because these are all number ones, but you have Multiversity Thunderworld, a new adventure, which, as you can tell, is a Captain Marvel story. And it's a very kind of golden age, or maybe silver age. I guess it's a more silver age Captain Marvel story. Um, although he was most popular in the golden age, if you want to look that up. This is before he was DC. He was a Fawcett Comics books character that was his own company. DC bought them later on, but in the golden age of comics, which was like 40s, 50s, Fawcett was his own thing, and Captain Marvel was the most successful superhero, even more so than Superman. And so this seems to be a completely kind of Fawcett-verse golden age Captain Marvel story, where we have we start at the Rock of Eternity, which gets invaded by Dr. Savannah, who is a classic Captain Marvel villain, one of his arch nemesis. We see Savannah's children as he transforms them into kind of anti-Shazams or anti-Captain Marvels called Captain Savannahs. These are all these are his children. They transform into kind of Captain Marvel-esque villains. Dr. Savannah's plan involves creating an 8th day of the week where anything is possible, which causes a time crash. So Billy Batson has to fight, as Captain Marvel, has to fight the Marvel Savannahs. He calls on the Captain Marvel family, and I love how they wait. I just noticed this here again. I love how they characterize Dr. Savannah in this, because he's taking over the Rock of Eternity and he's hollowing it out to dig for time crystals, which are crystals that contain pure time, and it's all very comic booky. And so as he's redecorating the Rock of Eternity, he turns it into an office. It's like he's putting down cubicles and carpeting, and like it's all beige, and I think that's great. Like he's just this really boring guy. He's like this great supervillain, great mastermind. His natural aesthetic, the aesthetic he prefers, is office space. It's you have like the robots carrying little like cactuses and everything. It's great. It's those little background touches. And then of course back in Fawcett City, everything is all bright and colorful and Captain Marvel-y. And yeah, it's just great. We got, like I said, the Marvel family. We have Mary Marvel and I forget his name, just Marvel Jr. or whatever. I don't know. We got like I love this scene in particular where we have Mary Marvel and Junior meet with Georgia Savannah, who begins as this kind of awkward nerdy girl. The powers give her, powers make her hot, and then she has this like great exchange with Junior, where with Mary and Junior, where she says, "Oh, Mary's just jealous that now she's prettier than Mary." And there's like Junior here to settle this argument, and Junior just starts like flirting with her, and then it turns out it's just a ploy to get her to say her name to transform back. It's just a great little bit, I think. And then the city gets attacked by monsters, and it's just like a great kind of, and then the rest of the, I don't know, everything is great. I love this book, and it's like the first. It kind of represents a turn in the way the Multiversity series has gone too, because it's the first one with like a definitively happy, optimistic ending where good wins. So of course this also mentions how throughout all these books there is a comic book that is evil, and once an evil person reads it, they begin to take over the world, and that's what's happening with Dr. Savannah. But Captain Marvel stops them. The heroes are successful, and they stop the comic book, and then at the very end, Captain Marvel destroys it. So we're seeing kind of a turning point in the Multiversity story where good is beginning to win out, which is like great, and it's great that they do it in this book, which is so definitively kind of that era, or styled after that era. So yeah, really good book, really good, just kind of essentialist comic book storytelling, or essential comic book storytelling, like the pop comic book, you know, what you think of when you think of old comic books, good versus evil, superhero sort of thing, done very, very well. Very bright, colorful art. It's just this is my favorite issue of Multiversity so far. Overtakes the Pulp issue, which I think was part 2. So just yeah, great book. And of course they all work as standalone. So if you just want to buy this one, that's perfectly fine. Next up, we have Wytches issue number 3. So completely opposite direction, completely flipping the thing here. So last issue I said I didn't really feel went anywhere, and I think this issue corrects that. We get a lot more story going on. We start in flashback, as I think we have been doing for a lot of these books, for every issue. So we start again in flashback, where we see what are their names? Why am I so crap at names? We see I can do this. I can read. I can figure out this guy's name. Charlie. The father's name was Charlie. Okay. So we start off flashback where Charlie is trying to get Sailor, his daughter, to overcome her anxiety. We then flash forward to the present where Sailor has run off into the woods. She's gone missing, or is kidnapped by witches, depending on how you're interpreting the story so far. What else happens? Sorry, I'm really tired. Charlie also recounts to the cops what happened to him last issue with that woman who, the home invader who broke into his home and started talking about witches to him. We get a full explanation of what happened there, which is just creepy as everything. This book is so creepy and does creepy really well. Everything from the dialogue to the art style to the just the main plotting of the story. So just unnerving. Really good atmosphere there. We see the family trying to retrace Sailor's kind of steps, where she talks about this feeling ever since she ran into the witch. Yeah, just everything in this book. Charlie goes off to find the woman did something that would lead him to Sailor, so the message finally appears on his body. And he goes off in search of her, and then at the very end, last panel is just Sailor being dragged out by the witch and struggling, calling for her dad. Just this book really picked up in this issue. Again, I said I was a bit off last issue. Didn't really think it going anywhere, and it kind of just went double speed here. We get the parents' investigation. We get one character, Charlie, setting off in order to find the daughter, and just kind of more just world building in a very organic kind of way, or atmosphere building as it is rather. Yeah. So hopefully issue 4, 5, 6, yada 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 are more like this. I think that things happening at this very kind of steady clip, because everything else in this book works so much. The pacing last year's off, but everything else, just the art, the dialogue, that feeling of things closing in around you, but being so much bigger than you can possibly understand. Just that uneasiness of this fear and everything. Just how fear works and what you're afraid of. Really, really good stuff. That's that. And finally, we're on to the last book this week, which is Sandman Overture number 4. And I have the same problem with Sandman Overture number 4 as I had with 2 and 3, in that it has been way too long since the last one, and I can't really remember what happened. I remember the basic gist of the story, which is Morpheus and Morpheus, yeah, not Orpheus, which is Morpheus, and then Cat Morpheus trying to prevent the end of the universe, and now there's a girl with them. I forget when the girl, if the girl is new. She probably appeared last issue, and I just can't remember. But they journey to the city of the stars, where Dream demands to be taken to this prisoner in the city, and who appears to be kind of reminiscent of Delirium in the other Sandman books, like that sort of, like, just, I mean, you can tell from the speech bubble. If you've read Sandman, there's the speech bubbles, the way of speaking, there's the general tone. It's kind of, it reminds me of Delirium. And we have an explanation. This book is weird. It's hard to follow. It's like to describe it, because it goes, it spirals, I guess. It spirals outwards. This book actually literally does spiral. You have to turn the book in order to keep reading. And so, yeah, as you can tell, beautiful book. Everything is just a pleasure to look at, and goes through so many styles. So the book actually opens and closes with Dream talking to his father, who is, I guess, just the Lord of Creation or something, not like God, because he actually met God, I'm pretty sure, in the original. But definitely a godlike being, which is all very kind of Sgt. Peppery, very Beatles, Yellow Submarine, sort of psychedelic inspired. And then we switch to just the combination of styles and colors, and it's a beautiful book. And then we switch to something like this, and then that switches to it's like this sort of thing, which is more, I don't know, like which is sharper and more like detail oriented and focused, and that goes to like this spread over here. We get kind of all these swirls and circles and curves going into just these squares. It's so hard to explain what happens in this book, because it's like I just have to basically read it to you. It's very detailed and intimate. But yeah, I'm really liking it. I like this. This is, I really forget about the previous issues how much I like them, but this is a just really good issue on its own. I want to say it's my favorite one of the miniseries so far. It's just, I wish I knew how to talk about it better than I am. But it's so good. We get a lot of character development. We get Dream reminiscing on the first time he had to kill somebody, and like the hesitation and kind of the price of being indecisive in that moment. And then like you get the moral circle, what was, was killing right in some things, is it wrong, like that whole sort of thing. We get just the story, like the main kind of story of him going to see the prisoner, who's not entirely what they seem. We get Dream talking with his father, and kind of these two incredibly powerful beings talking to each other, but also having like a father-son relationship, and kind of a more human father-son relationship. It's everything, this book. So that's how we're ending this on Sandman. So yeah, sorry about the length of this video. I know I said like a few months ago I've been trying to keep these shorter, but I have ideas on all these books, guys. I have opinions and stuff that I want to talk about. Sorry if this was especially low energy. Like I said, finals, very tired. very kind of drained of things. And yeah, and that's that, I guess. I hope you enjoyed, even though this video was incredibly long and slow and probably not the best I've ever done. But, you know, I hope you got some enjoyment out of it. At least enough to maybe join me again next week. We'll talk about some more comics. If you liked it enough to click the like thingy on this video, I'd appreciate that. If you want to subscribe, go ahead. You know, it makes me feel better about doing this thing. And yeah, thanks for watching.